Hello, everybody. This is Hillary Sloan, and this is Driftwood Conversations. Today, I have the honor of sitting with Prema Saraswati. Prema was born into the Hmong people, powerful farming community high in the mountains of Laos. During the Vietnamese War, the CIA recruited the Hmong to fight in what became known as the Secret War, a mission hidden from the world. When the U.S. withdrew, the Hmong were left to face brutal retaliation. Families fled their ancestral villages, running for their lives through jungles, enduring gunfire, landmines, poison gas, and starvation. Prema's family survived that journey, living as refugees before finding a way to the United States. But even here, safety did not mean healing. Prema carried unspoken trauma, navigating poverty, cultural dislocation, and abuse. And yet, through divine guidance, she emerged as a healer, drawing from Reiki, hypnotherapy, past life regression, and the ancestral shamanic wisdom of her people. Prema now helps others release deep trauma and reconnect with their true selves. This is a conversation about survival and grace, about ancient wisdom, about ancient wounds and spiritual awakening, and about the transformative power of love and resilience that lives in every human spirit. Hello, Prema. Thank you for being here. But I'm going to have you introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Prema Saraswati. I live out here in the high desert, Yucca Valley, with my husband, and I specialize in helping women, men, and children heal from trauma and abuse, using hypnotherapy, neuro-linguistic programming, and my own form of energy healing.
Where did this form of energy healing come from? Did you just develop it over time?
The foundation is Reiki. I started with Reiki, and then from there, through learning and spiritual development, it just kind of evolved, like with many healers, to now it's really different when I'm channeling energy healing from the divine goddesses and several shamans.
How long have you been on this path?
This path started in 2011 when we were gearing up for 2012, where the world was supposed to end. And so in 2012, that's when I changed career. I opened up my own business offering healing services.
What were you doing before that?
So before that, I was unemployed for a couple years. It was during the depression or the recession of 2008. And before that, I worked in aerospace, I worked in advertising. Then my last corporate job was a recruiter.
Okay, let's go back now, because you have a very rich history. And why don't you tell me where you were born and the early part of your life?
I was born to a farming community high up in the mountains of Laos. Laos is a small country between Vietnam and Thailand. And what most people don't know, well, first of all, my people, we are called Hmong. It spells Hmong. Very peaceful, hard-working, civilized people living independently up in the mountains. What most people don't know is that during the Vietnam War, the U.S. CIA came and recruited the Hmong to fight in a secret war on their behalf, because they were not supposed to get involved. So they hired us to fight the Viet Cong. And we all know what happened to the Vietnam War. When, we lost, the U.S. and the CIA pulled out of Laos and just leaving us to be slaughtered by the communists. So they turned on us and just started killing us. And one day we just packed up, immediately grabbed as many things as we can and left the village. And we're talking about families, little kids, elderlies, just running for our lives with no help, no weapon.
Give me some dates with that. So the Vietnamese War was, what, 1960?
When this happened to us, it was in the late 1970s.
Late 70s, okay. And how old were you at that time?
I was about 5, give or take a year.
Okay. And did the whole village leave?
Yes, because the soldiers were coming and they killed anybody on sight.
Where did you go? Well, in your family, you've told me, but how many kids are there in your family?
There were 8 children and my parents. I think the oldest was about 12. And the youngest was a baby, not even a year. And then there was a 2-year-old. And then there was me.
Wow. The picture of that, it's overwhelming to me to imagine a whole family with young, very young children leaving their home. Where did you go?
At first, we were just, I think at first there was hope that things will calm down and we can come back to life. That was how I thought. I thought, soldiers were coming. So we'll just leave and hide out until things are clear and then we'll come back into a village and continue. That was my belief. And we did come back after a few days of hiding out, we did come back to the village. What I didn't know was, I thought, we're home. I'm starting to settle in. And I'm like, no, we are just replenishing supplies and we're leaving again. And that was the last time I saw home. And we left, moving toward Thailand because that was the safe refuge.
And how long did you stay in Thailand?
Well, the trip from leaving a village to Thailand is where most of the trauma and most of the devastation happened.
Well, describe that for me if you don't mind.
So they were shooting at us. So imagine an exodus. I don't know how many hundreds of people or thousands of people. There were not just our village, but other villages. We were all just leaving toward Thailand, running away, running for our lives. And carrying whatever food we can, carrying babies, helping the elderly, just running for our lives. And we were being shot at with all the modern weapons that they have. And we're just farmers. We're not soldiers. We don't have any weapons to protect ourselves. So they were just shooting at us. So many people died. So many people died from gun wounds, landmines, bombing, all sorts of ways that they could kill us.
Did your whole family get out all right?
Most of us. So they eventually started to drop poison gas into the jungle. And so most of us got that. And many more people died from that. My parents were so heroic, so clever to be able to keep 12 kids together, surviving through all sorts of,
Let me just clarify something. I thought you said 11 kids plus you then? Is that the 12 children?
Yeah, there were 8. There were about 8 children, 8 of us.
Right. So 11 was later. There were more kids later.
Yeah, so 11, that was when we got to the States.
Okay. So you had 8 children at that.
Yeah, there were
family.
8 of us at that time. If my math is right, I had to count my fingers of my siblings. So the poison gas that they dropped into the jungle It caused people to have diarrhea, to lose their appetite, to wither away. And they got really skinny and they died. So my parents, we grew opium, and they brought raw opium with them. And that was the main medicine that we had that kept us alive. My parents were just heroic. They know how to administer opium for medicinal purposes. So they gave us opium. They put a paste of opium on our nose so that we would breathe that and to kind of counteract the poison. If you know about 2-year-old, they can't hold on to anything. They're finicky. And so my little 2-year-old brother would keep on taking the opium off his nose. So then he died. So we lost him. The 6-month-old baby survived.
Wow.
Sorry, I have to stop it. I'm so sorry for you.
There was tremendous loss, tremendous grief that my people are still dealing with, the loss and the grief.
So your journey from there to here it has so many levels. It's survival.
So many.
And healing trauma.
Starvation. We were so hungry. I remember on TV they showed these children from Ethiopia who were starving with a big belly and skinny. That was us.
Did Thailand welcome you in?
So here's the story. When we were about to get close to the Thai border, we got captured by the communist soldiers. At first, it started with all these people running, and toward the end, it's like a funnel. The group that were with us got smaller and smaller, where there was only a few families with us, and we got captured. And my father's best friend, was sent to the concentration camp. My parents, they had money, so they bribed the leaders there, and we were allowed to stay as prisoners in the village. And then I don't know how long we were there, 6 months to a year maybe. So on New Year's Eve, there was always guards watching over us so that we couldn't escape. On New Year's Eve, my parents planned their our great escape. So the guards went to party, and my parents put logs in place of us, so it's like we were in bed sleeping. They also left some valuable jewelry as bribe. And my family and another family, because my dad knew the way to Thailand, the other family did not. And so about midnight-ish, we left and we escaped in the dark. There was 2 other families who left the same night, but they left later, before morning, and they were caught and slaughtered. So my family and the other family, we made it to Thailand. And we were so happy, because that's been a dream the whole time, that we're safe. And then guess what they told us? Our borders is closed. We will have to send you back to Laos.
Oh my God, I couldn't.
So imagine. After all that, running, surviving, getting captured, and then escaping, and finally made it to salvation, and we're told, we have to ship you back. We don't accept refugees anymore. Also, in that same camp that we got in, my father's brothers, so our relatives were there. And I remember we were so hungry. We were always hungry. There was running in the jungle for many days. And we were put into this warehouse where there was only a small window up at the top of the wall where we could just see the sunlight and peek up. And so the reason why we survived and we were not shipped back was that my parents bribed the official. They still had money. They bribed the official. And I remember we were probably in the warehouse, I don't know exactly how many days, but it seems like a month. We weren't allowed to go out. We were not allowed to, to be with our relatives. And I remember a big pickup truck we were up in the mountains, the camp came from the city to take us back. And so we were all put into the back of the pickup truck. My mom was screaming and didn't want to leave, and they threatened to shoot her if she doesn't get on the truck. So I remember the truck was driving around the mountain on this dirt road, right? And go around the mountain, and we saw the city. And the first time I saw traffic lights, and then he stopped at a park, and he said, "I'm gonna go and check with my superior, and I'll be back." So we were just all hanging out in the park, and it was starting to get dark. So my dad began to cook a pot of rice. And just when the rice was starting to boil, the driver came back and said, "It's time to go back in the truck." And so he just picked up the pot of rice, and it wasn't even fully cooked. So we're like, this is it. Gloom and doom, this is it. The axe is falling. And then I remember the pickup truck starting to go up the mountain, round and round, up the mountain. And we were set free.
It took you back.
Took us back
To the
camp.
To the
And
camp.
we were released to be with our relatives.
Oh, God.
So the bride had worked, thankfully. 2 years later, we were sponsored to the U.S. The other side of the story was that my mom's side of the family, they're educated. They worked closely with the CIA, and they were also close to the royal family.
The royal family
Of Laos.
Of Laos, okay.
Yes. And so when the CIA took off, they had the opportunity to go to the Thai refugee camp, and they had the opportunity to come to the U.S. So they were already in the U.S. before we got to Thailand. And they sponsored us to come to the U.S.
So let me back up and understand a few things. Your family had some money. Was your father a farmer or?
We were farmers.
But opium. Did he have money from farming opium?
Yeah, so opium was the profit crop, and then we raised everything we need for survival.
Interesting. Well, did anybody become addicted to the opium?
Not my parents, not that many people actually. An uncle was addicted to it, but not that many people were at it.
So it was just used for medicinal purposes?
Yes.
Wow. I'm a little speechless. I mean, first of all, to have that kind of story, I can't, because your story overlays or is exactly what's happening to people right now.
Yes. Mm-hmm. It's repeating.
And to have such lack of compassion and insight to not understand that these people that are running from something are people and their conditions are so difficult. They wouldn't have left their homes if it wasn't difficult.
No, they would not. And my dad moved back to Thailand because he couldn't. It was really hard for him to live in the U.S. with all the freedom. It just didn't feel right for him.
Interesting. How many years later was that?
So we came here in 1980, and then 1996 is when he went back to Thailand and married a younger woman and started a whole new family there. That's a whole nother story for another
stay
talk.
with you.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was so hard that many men died in their sleep once they got to the U.S. And it's a phenomenon. They just die in their sleep.
Wow. Did anybody do any research on that?
I don't know.
I'll have to.
But I do know that it's not a one-off case. It's a phenomenon.
Interesting. So you left Laos in the 70s, late 70s.
Yes.
Late or early?
So we came to the U.S. in 1980. We were in Thailand for 2 years. So, you do the math backwards. Probably like 1976, 77 is when this thing was happening. Here's another thing that a lot of people don't know. It's because the CIA recruited us at the secret war that no one was supposed to know. They didn't tell anybody what was happening. So while we were being slaughtered in the jungle, nobody knew about this. There was no media. There was no help. We were just running for our lives. Months and months in the jungle.
When you got to the States, did they help you? Did you have any support? Were you connected to family or friends?
We were fortunate to be with our families. As far as the government help, what I remember, and no, it's not all the facts because I was a child then, we were on welfare. So we got, enough money to live off on. As far as, so there was no mental health therapy support. There was no mental health support. We were thrown into a classroom where we spoke no English and there was no translator. And the teachers didn't really know what to do with us. So I remember the teacher told me to just copy my classmate. All the assignment, just copy her and turn it in. And so they didn't have the system set up to, support us to integrate and to learn the English.
What state did you go to?
We landed in Portland, Oregon, and that's where my mom's relatives came, and that's where they still are. And then 2 years later, we moved to Sacramento, California. And that's where my family are.
Did your father or mother at that point, were they able to get work in Sacramento?
In Portland, my father started a clean hotel, and there wasn't enough money. By then, there were 9 of us, because my mom had a child in Thailand. So there was 8, and then there was 9.
And you lost one, though.
Yes, we lost one. And so then my mom has one. And so my math must be inaccurate. There must have been 9 kids because it doesn't, they don't add up. So my mom had my brother in Thailand. And then when we got to the States, she had 2 more boys. So then there were 11 of us. So he started working, cleaning hotel rooms, but there wasn't enough money to sustain us. And so we came down to California. And then we were on welfare. And then it wasn't until way later when I was almost finished with high school that they began to farm and began to make some money.
Through farming, small farming or?
Yeah, just them. They rent like an acre or 2 and they grow produce and they sell it at the farmer's market and they saved. My parents were really good saver.
So by the time you got to California, what were you, about 11? Did you have records of birth and dates? I was talking to somebody recently from Africa, and they don't really know when they're born.
I don't know when I was born.
Okay, same thing.
No, we were up in the mountains. There was no record. Most of us were illiterate.
Mm-hmm. What was it like going to school in America then? Well, you told me a little that they didn't have accommodations for you. They didn't know what to do with you. Did that ever change?
I think a year or 2 later, they started to have the ESL class. And I remember our ESL teacher, all the Hmong kids.
So that's English second language.
Yeah, so we would have our regular classrooms, and then at one point of the day, all of the Hmong kids, all of the refugee kids or the immigrant kids would go to this ESL room and like all my brothers and sisters would be there, and it would be, different age groups, and she would teach us the basics of English, and I think that helped because then I started to, pick up the language.
For now, we pause here on part 1 of Prema's journey, honoring the weight of this story before moving on to what came next, how her family worked to make a home in America, and how Prema found a path forward her father never could. By the time Prema's family and so many other Hmong families arrived in America, they had already endured the unimaginable. For the children, America was not a dream come true. It was a place they had never imagined. In Portland, Oregon, no one knew how to teach them or help them belong. A year passed before they were even enrolled in an English as second language class. And even then, it was only a partial, imperfect bridge. The barrier remained. The road from a mountain village in Laos to become a healer in California was long, often arduous and shaped by loss, but it would also become a path of resilience and transformation. Join me next week for part 2 as we continue Prema's story and walk with her into the chapter where survival begins to give way to healing. Until then, this is Driftwood Conversations, and I'm Hilary Sloan.